You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Brett Cohen.
Hello.
Brett, tell me and the wonderful audience, who are you and what do you do professionally?
Well, I'm 35-year-old, work out of Philadelphia, and my career is in the arts and entertainment industry. Do a lot of work with all the Broadway shows that come from New York. We get them next since we're so close, and also deal with a lot of comedians and different actors that want to come up on stage and maybe they wrote a book. They talk about their book. So it's a whole bunch of different things we do. We have all sorts of concerts. A whole bunch of fun things in the arts and entertainment.
The comedians and the actor thing I can get down with, but when it comes to Broadway music, how do you feel about musicals?
Honestly, it's not really my thing. Everyone that I work with, it's their thing, which is great. Everyone has things that they love, obviously, and other people don't.
I'm not about it.
But there's definitely some that come through that are amazing. We just finished up with Hamilton, and that was actually incredible. So it lived up to all the hype that it had. So
now, have you always had a fascination with the performing arts? Is that why you decided to get into that, or did it just randomly kind of plop in your lap?
No, I've always, it's a mixture of two things. It's the arts and entertainment industry has always been of interest to me, and marketing has always been of interest to me. So that's what I do there. I do a lot of the marketing for the venues. Basically, we're a campus of 3 venues that we basically serve to the Philadelphia community. And we do that with by, like I said, showing all sorts of different styles and types of entertainment.
I'm not saying I don't like musicals, but when I saw Les Miserables, whatever it's called,
Les Mis,
I went from thinking, "Oh, it's Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. This is going to be badass," and then I watched it and I was like, "Oh no,
yeah,
we need to refund the ticket here. We've made a bad purchase."
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, Les Mis is one of the shows that, like I said, there's only a select few that I really like. And Les Mis was one of them. Actually, I actually really enjoyed that. But there's been some that have come through that I just wish I went home after work instead.
Do you think that they're a lot better probably in person rather than seeing them on screen? Because I feel like a lot of what impacts like going to a concert or something is probably on the basis of when you get to see it in person, there's a whole completely different experience.
Yeah, 100%. That's the whole point of it is that wow factor when you get the guests to come in and they buy their tickets, they trust that you're gonna give them something worth their time and money, and then you do that for them. You can watch their faces light up. I think one of the coolest things about my job is sometimes all 3 venues are activated at the same time at night, and maybe I had stayed for work, or maybe I just stayed to see one of those shows at one of those 3 venues. And, they typically let out around the same time. You figure, most concerts are like 2 hours or so, 3 hours. And, leaving and seeing all 3 venues exiting at the same time and everyone just talking about how much fun it was. And that's totally different than when you are, watching a concert at home on TV or something. It's just not the same.
Probably a lot of the kind of the enjoyment comes from also seeing the performers on stage as well, seeing how into it they get. It seems like when you get to see somebody truly like act out or just feel like they're completely being free and loose, probably creates an overall, atmospheric vibe to it as well.
It does. It definitely does. And then you have, you have the actors that come in that people know, obviously, so they have face recognition, and people want to see certain people. We had Jerry Seinfeld not too long ago. So many people love him.
I do not like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm sorry. It's that voice. It's that voice. Everybody in my family loves Seinfeld. They're like, it's the best show ever. I'm like, as soon as I hear him going, oh, what's the deal with airplane food? I'm like, nope, not for me.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, there's something for everyone. So he's not for you. Now we had Kevin James, the King of Queens. I don't know what you feel about him.
Oh, yes.
yeah. So he's awesome. He came in. He was there a couple times, I think, with us, but he was great to have and hilarious as always. And Nick Offerman from Parks and Recreation, the guy with the mustache.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ron Swanson. Yeah,
So
yeah, he's great.
would you say that the most memorable thing about your job or like kind of the benefit to it is being able to communicate with such famous people and also meet such talented people?
That's one of them. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work to get a show booked from our programming department, and then marketing doing our end of things, and then actually having the show successfully come through and leave without any problems at all. There's a lot. There's a stress factor involved, but yeah, the celebrity factor and being able to see the shows, that obviously is one of the major perks.
With marketing though, so like are you trying to find a way to like target a certain audience? Like what exactly do you do with the marketing?
Yeah. Well, we will have like a roundtable discussion and see who this show is, where they've been before, um, what the successes were, who their audience is, and we can find all that out from simple things like reaching out to other performing arts centers that have just recently had that act, and we can find out what worked and what didn't. But then we can go into a system where I can narrow things down to um, finding out what type of wine these guests will probably like. And maybe that evening we're serving a free glass of, Chardonnay because that's what we found out was their wine, their drink of choice. And that's getting a little too granular with it, but that's how granular you can get with marketing. So you use different systems to do that. It's not just, one program. We have multiple different softwares that we use to figure all that stuff out.
It feels like a lot of that too. I mean, a lot of people don't think about the overall impact of going to see a concert, that all little stuff that plays into, creating a really good memory, such as like the types of wines that the people can buy there, such as
Yeah.
like just the atmosphere in general, the overall setup. Yeah, the actors have to do a main job of the work, but what happens before they get on stage? What about the whole
Yeah.
setup? What about getting the whole thing lined up perfectly on the perfect night just to make sure
Yeah.
that everything can occur in just the right way?
Yeah, and that was when I met Nick Offerman and his wife Megan Mullally. She actually was talking to me, and I told her, hey, like I did the marketing for your show. You had such an awesome show. I loved watching it happen successfully. And she was like, "Oh, you sold us out here. Like it was awesome. Every seat was taken." I told her, I'm like, "Well, you probably sold the house out. I mean, you're from Will and Grace, and Nick Offerman is Nick Offerman. He's the man." And she went on to say like that's not true at all. It's everything that happens behind the scenes. If they don't know we're coming, or they don't, if we're not putting that, Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally are coming to our venue constantly in front of people's faces, they will forget about it. Doesn't matter if you're um, a local musician or if you're one of the biggest musicians around that everyone knows. If you don't keep reminding people, they will forget about it.
Have you had an overall experience that changed just because of the amount of performance that went behind it, like how good it was or how bad it was? Like you just had an opinion change. I remember one time I was in music appreciation class and our teacher gave us a project to basically go to a music performance that we would never have ever gone to without the class or being like kind of forced to in a way.
Yeah.
So a lot of the kids, like obviously we have to choose like being, young millennials instead of going to like the rap or whatever concerts that we
Right.
usually go to. I picked a symphony mostly because it was the first one that was the closest date. And I was like, I'd rather get this out of the way.
Right.
I actually probably had more fun there than I did at a reggae concert or something I actually bought tickets to. It's
Yeah.
the overall experience of it. I think a lot of the atmosphere, like just and seeing the performance as well too, when they were playing Beethoven's symphony or just, I think it was Symphony Number 5. They were the amount of training and talent that went into that. Like you had to appreciate just the effort that was put into it, whether you liked the music or not, whether it was something you wanted to get up and dance your toe to or something. Just
Yeah.
seeing the people's faces and how hard they were playing and how precisely they all kind of coordinated together, you could tell that there was a lot of practice and hours spent behind that. And then my brother came in on the triangle. I was like, there's my homie coming in the back, just ding. and everyone's like doing all these sophisticated moves, and he's just in the back like ding, and then sets it down and walks away. I'm like, that was the performance.
Yeah, there's definitely acts like that that come through that change you and change your view on the different forms of entertainment that's out there. One of them, um, for sure, is a band, Sigur Rós. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've
It's
heard
a
of the System of a Down song, but I have not heard the band.
Yeah, it's not the same, and but they're an Icelandic band. They don't really speak. They don't really have vocals in most of their songs, although they do in some. And I was introduced to them years ago, and I was basically introduced to them by going to a show. I didn't really know much about them. I only heard one song, and most of it's instrumental. And they're supposed to be one of the most like incredible, emotional, visual shows you could go see anywhere. This it's constantly sold out when they tour around Iceland and things like that. But when I went to the show, I went with a buddy of mine. And our jaws were just dropped. We weren't expecting it. It was just we didn't even want to go, and we got there, and like I said, it was just eyes on the stage the whole time, and you're watching these people perform, and what you felt from it was just so different than anything else. And they're known to this day for that. Um, my buddy, who I'm speaking about, that I went to the show with, he had lost his brother not long before that, and I just watched his like he was so emotional during it, and that's what happens to everybody when they go see this show. So recommend getting the chance to see them. You should.
It definitely pulls something out of the deep inside of it too. Sometimes music and things of this sort can hit you on a level that you don't even realize that you had that level on there. I
Yeah,
mean, when you see a performance, I mean, whenever I watch Old Yeller or I watch Titanic, I just start tearing up. Like,
yeah.
I know that sounds like, oh, you're a man, you shouldn't be tearing up. Look,
Nah, screw that.
I've seen a really good movie where a kid lost both of his parents. I'm not talking about Batman. I'm talking about he lost both of his parents, and then it was him struggling living on the streets, and it felt like a documentary, but it was so
Yeah,
impactful. Where I don't know if it just hit me in a certain way. I started tearing up. I was like,
yeah.
someone's looking over you crying. Like, no, I'm not. I got something hit. The wind got in my eye. Like, we're inside.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Just leave me alone.
Hey man, that's it's human nature. That stuff's done anymore, where you have to feel ashamed of getting upset or crying or whatever. I mean, we've all been there with different things. I've definitely seen my fair share of documentaries and movies that do that to me, and I've seen it in person. People that working in Philly, you see homeless people on the streets that just had a bad card dealt to them, and you see them get better and they come back out again, and it's the same thing. It's like a merry-go-round for them. Unfortunately, no one's there to help them, and that's emotional too.
Being able to fit yourself into someone else's shoes at the same time, knowing what that experience is like, makes it's one of the most, I guess, beneficial skills to have, coming from a place where you've had hardships and being able to relate, because it makes
Yeah,
you more understandable towards others. But it's also difficult because it's hard to kind of keep your own emotions out of that whole experience as well. But
yeah.
sometimes it's definitely needed. Has this increased maybe your just view of the arts in general? I feel like coming into grasp with so many things, like whether you wanted to go see the person or whether you didn't want to go see the person, it probably really enhances your view of just the performing arts.
It definitely does. I mean, we have so many different performers that come through. It's amazing. Our programming department's amazing with who they get to come through, and some of these people that come through, you're just like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to sell this show. I don't know if they really have the name recognition or anything. If we have drag queens come through, and some of those shows are incredible, and you just didn't. I never thought about ever going to see one before, but it was actually fun. Now every year, this one person comes back, and I get to work with him all the time to build kind of like a program for his show, and he's hilarious. It's so much fun to work with him all the time, and I never would have gone to see him if I never worked where I work. So that opens up a lot of new doors for sure.
My buddy's band's called they're called the Swell Fellows, and I was talking about like when they were going to like one of their gigs that was kind of a couple states away. I think they were traveling near Austin, Texas, and he talked about like how the whole trip was just everything was lined out basically just to make them fail. Like they couldn't even get to the venue. Their car broke down. They had to
Oh my
wait
god.
2 days to get it like fixed by a weird sketchy mechanic that kept like dropping these southern like I guess whatever name drops or something that they really didn't understand.
Right.
And I tell him I was like, at that time you probably hated life. You probably were like, this sucks. This is the worst day of my life. And I'm like, now what do you guys think when you guys look back on it? And all three of them just started laughing. Go, it's one of our favorite memories, mostly because
Yeah.
we had to do so much just to be able to get there. But now that we look back on it, we laugh. I mean, a lot of memories. I think whether it's like, oh, we're going to Disneyland, it's going to be the best trip ever. I feel like a lot of what builds up into that memory is just a certain thing that happens. I mean, I went to the movies with my buddy. I think it was like 2 Christmases ago. Was when Seth Rogen released The Night Before,
Yeah.
and
I don't
we're
think I've ever
watching.
seen that though.
It's the Christmas movie with Jeff Gordon-Levitt and the guy
Oh,
that
Joseph Gordon. Yeah,
yeah the
that's
guy that
right.
plays Hawkman.
I never saw it, but I do know what you're talking about.
Well, we saw that movie, and I think I forgot what it was. We drank like some Slurpees or something stupid before. Like, it's a little like kind of Christmas tradition. Whenever we see a Christmas movie, we drink like a Slurpee before or something.
Right.
Just a little thing we add on, something new every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're childs at art. But we saw the movie. I mean, I went through a 32 ounce, and then sat through a 2.5 hour movie, and then I went to go to the bathroom because I really had to go at that point. Bathrooms are filled, so my buddy's like, "Dude, we live like 25 minutes away. We can make it." I'm like, "All right, let's go." So we're getting in the car, and I don't know how I was driving at some point, but I was driving us back, and I'm speeding. I was like, I can get us there faster, and he lives out in the back part of the country, so like we're already like, all right, the movie was good, the movie was great, the movie was amazing, but I don't care about that because I have to pee right now, and we're getting right down his street, and at this point, my bladder's like, you can't hold it anymore.
Right.
So he's making me laugh and he's screaming like, dude, you need to get me home now so I can use the bathroom instead of just pulling over and just going out on the side of the road like animals. He consider we were in the country, we probably should have did that. But he has like 5 different stop signs on his streets, and you got to go around all these stops and then go take a right turn, then take a left turn, then take a right turn, and then it's like you're at his house. So he hits me, and my car goes out of automatic into sport mode to where you have to like hit it up
Yeah.
and then hit it down, and it kept like kind of like stopping, like wouldn't go out of gear, and then I
Right.
had to keep hitting it up, and that jerking motion was
Oh
just
yeah.
literally forcing it out of me to the point like I literally threw the car in park as soon as I got in the driveway, didn't even turn the car off, just unclipped the seatbelt and just went right into his bushes. He ran right inside the house. But
Yeah.
whenever I think about like going to the movies or something, I have that flashback to that moment, and it's those experiences I think that overall make it. Like the movie was good, movie wasn't bad, but
It's the journey.
that journey at the ending where you literally think you're gonna piss yourself in your freaking Kia seats, it's freaking amazing.
Yep, yep. It's about always about the journey, and that's what our that's what I do is trying to create a journey for the guests as they come through. Yeah, and that I try to create a journey for myself. Mentally, I kind of like to be alone a lot of the times when I'm home. I'll do things by myself. I'll take hikes and I look for the Native American artifacts around the rivers and things like that, and I do all sorts of
I
different
was
things.
literally gonna do a great segue. I was gonna be like, so we talk about the journey from theater. Let's talk about the journey for your treasure hunting, which is really what we're gonna get
Yeah,
down to.
yeah, yeah. It's just a way. It's just like I said. Like it's people have like special things that they like to do just for themselves, or they have memories, and a lot. I like to create a lot of them with people, but I also do enjoy um, doing that by myself as well, and that's what that is.
Explain it a little bit for me in the audience, kind of like you have an Instagram page called East Coast Treasure Hunting, and are we talking about like with a metal detector? Or are you just going and looking for? We could say artifacts, but I feel like every time I have ever used a metal detector or seen somebody use a metal detector, they never really find anything.
No, it's everything. So I basically made that page based off of a friend that was basically telling me to do that. I don't even really have an Instagram account before that. So he's like, you have so much content, you should be putting that stuff up on Instagram. Because I do have a YouTube channel that I just posted everything on, which I basically did just for people that did that for me when I was just wanting to just see what people have found recently. And, there's always videos. I felt like I just was returning the favor. But I only started the Instagram page. I don't know, it was like a month ago or so. And it's people are just loving it. So, and I don't know why it's getting as big as it is, but yeah, it's a mixture of everything. I mean, I do use a metal detector. I do look for arrowheads and Native American artifacts, and I look for shark's teeth along the beaches, and they're all different time periods. And some things I find are 100 years old, and other things I find are like 150 million years old.
So
Um,
where did the fascination for treasure hunting come from? I mean, I'm from the East Coast. I'm in Ocean City, Maryland. So the
yeah, you're
biggest
not far from me.
the most important thing I think I've ever found on our beach is probably I found a saw one time.
I saw.
Yeah, I found a legit saw. And then I think I was a jet ski guide for a while, so I definitely found a lot of pairs of Oakley sunglasses in our bay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna find all sorts of stuff washing up. I don't really know, like it. I know where it stemmed from. I don't know how it stuck like it did, but my uncle got me really into it, metal detecting when I was just a little kid. And the reason why, like how that happened was, um, my cousin's grandma owned a home from the 17th century. It was an old school, and they were moving, and the place is a historical building. So when they moved, the historical society wanted to make sure that the house stayed up, but a bank wanted to move into that location. So they actually lifted the house up and moved it to another area just to, to put like the historical sign next to it and explain what it used to be.
We talk about
And
homes on wheels. That's basically what it was. Homes on wheels.
it's basically, yeah. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but they lifted the whole foundation up, and just one day it was on this main road, and the other day it was off in this like side of like a neighborhood.
When I
But
was
what
a
I
kid, I thought that was a prank. I thought people were like paying other people to move like their buddy's home down the street or something. So like he
right,
pulls into his driveway. He's like, "Where the fuck's my house?"
yeah, yeah. It, like I said, I don't know. I don't even know how they did it. It was just one of the most bizarre things, because I used to go there for all my birthday parties, my cousin's birthday parties. They had a pool and everything. It was just so weird to drive there the next day, and it was just not there, but it was there. It was just on the other side of the road, a mile down. But what that did was it exposed the land that it was that the house was on top of, and the bank technically didn't own the land for a good month. So my uncle bought a metal detector, just out of curiosity, just to look around, and we went with him, and we found all sorts of stuff. We found silverware made out of pure silver, um, like little pins that they made, like for the kids that went to the school. They were all made out of silver in these giant jars that they buried a foot under the ground. There was coins from the 1800s all over the place. There was just
Did,
everything you could think of.
did you find a
They made.
Did you find a time capsule?
Did not find it. Yeah, I was a little disappointed about that. I thought I would. I have found them before, but no,
You found a time capsule before?
yeah,
What was in it?
yeah, I just left it though. I didn't want to mess with
Dude, you
someone
should have
else's
opened
thing.
that
I
shit up.
honestly, I know, but you know what? I felt like it was something of like a memory of a family member, because I think there's something engraved on it. I just felt weird about opening it. I just left it in there,
See,
and
that's a weird thought though. You're treasure hunting. Imagine like, oh, I found some treasure. You start burying it down. You find like a golden ring that's worth like $1 million, and you like go to grab it,
yeah,
and you realize there's a finger still on it, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, this is. I'm in a graveyard. I'm in a
yeah.
yeah. It shouldn't
Definitely
be.
want to avoid those. Because you
What's
can find it, but no one's gonna. I mean, some people do wander. I'm not like that. I try to respect the grounds that I'm on. But yeah, I don't know, that whole experience stuck. And then, you know, I've always sort of just I my uncle gave me that metal detector. I started using that later on every so often, and I was finding little things here and there. But um, then I started working for a company where I actually worked on a landfill, And what they do is when they drop the trash on the landfill at the end of the day, they bury it with dirt because you can't leave it exposed. It's a visual eyesore for the community, and there's basically you want to compact all the trash down anyway, so they lay it all down like that. They bury it with dirt every day. That dirt they would take from the Delaware River, and every time they would do that, I would be working on the landfill, and I would see these bottles sticking out all over the place. And to some people, who really gives a shit about a bottle? But these bottles were from the 17th century or 18th century, and you would pick them up and you would look at them. They're really cool looking bottles, real thick with glass. You would go home and you'd look them up on eBay and stuff, and they're like a couple $100 each bottle and stuff. So there's fun things like that that you can find, and that kind of just stemmed into all these other things that I do with the art, Native American artifacts, and now shark's teeth, which I'm surprised that you've never done. Being in Ocean City, Maryland, you're so close to where I go a lot for the shark's teeth in Calvert Cliffs.
I've never found a shark's tooth here before. I've seen a shark. I've been like maybe 5 feet away from a hammerhead, but I've
Oh,
never actually like gotten a shark's tooth before. I see the
yeah.
necklaces and stuff in stores, but I always think those are fake.
No, they're real. It's just that, the sharks, they lose teeth all day long, and then they have another set growing right behind it again. It's just a constant cycle. I mean, I forget what they say that shark can lose. I could be totally wrong about this number, but I think it's like 400 teeth in its life, before it dies. So one shark produces 400 teeth. You're going to find them, but what you're seeing in the stores, that are all modern teeth. The teeth that I look for are millions of years old. They died millions of years ago, and then they basically are stored in this clay formation that of a wall that every so often a chunk of it breaks off and lands on the ground, and then the water will take it and break it down, and then out pops these prehistoric shark's teeth, which is really neat. When you actually pick one up, you realize how old that is.
I think a lot of the like my fascination with kind of just looking for treasure kind of goes off like obviously like the National Treasure movies with Nicolas Cage. But
Yeah,
when I decided as a kid, like we go shell collecting, you collect seashells and stuff. And I remember
sure.
like walking on top of the rocks and you're taking those steps, you're going like oh, one giant step over this rock, and then sooner or later you end up jumping, and then you ended up climbing and you end up going down into like the crevices of the rocks. You see a bunch of like oysters, or you
Yeah,
see a bunch of mussels, and then you start looking around even closer and you start finding like really cool things like sea glass. Like, do you have
yeah.
you I mean, when it comes to sea glass, what exactly is that? I've never really understood. I feel like someone just took a beer bottle, chucked it into the ocean, and then it just broke off and came back. You're like, that's sea glass.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes, that is what it is. Um, and what people love about looking for sea glass is that you're looking for those bottles I just explained to you a little bit ago that I would find on the landfill that are a couple hundred years old. Those bottles, they did the same thing back then. They didn't have trash cans or anything. They threw everything on the ground in trash piles, or they threw them in the river. And that glass will break up and then tumble around in the water and then wash up to the beach. And you're looking at, you can look at a bottle that's from a Heineken from 20 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, or you could be picking up a piece of glass that's really cloudy looking and big fat chunk of glass that is from an older bottle, because they don't use that much glass today to make a bottle. They back then they did, things were just better made, more well made. And when you find a piece like that, usually that's what people love. I mean, you can, I hate using a price on everything, but like, you could sell a piece of sea glass for 100, you know, $100-200, depending on what the bottle's from. I mean, if you have a nice blue piece, people will buy that to make jewelry out of and stuff. I'll pick it up if I see it. If it's a nice enough piece, I'll take them home because people buy them
How often do you come across something and then you start researching more information about what you found?
every
Like,
time.
I feel like a lot like when people say like if they stick their ear to a conch and they can hear the ocean, I always was curious, like, is it because that conch has like what we like a soaked in memory? Kind of like, it's being surrounded by it constantly that it just soaked up the information. So when you stick your ear up to it, is that like just like what, like an echo of what, the memories or something? Because I think memories are very, very powerful. I mean, it seems like whenever you grab an object or something, there's always somebody trying to predate it, trying to figure out where it came from, its origin,
Sure.
and its history behind it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, everything that I find, I have to, I can't just put it away without knowing where it came from. A couple of years ago, I was in Maryland and I was walking along a plowed field for some arrowheads because that's how you'll find them. The farmers go out, they plow the field, and when they do like a deep plow and they disc up the ground like that, they'll actually lift up things from the past. And basically, after they plow, you wait for a little bit of rain, and it flattens out the those plow lines. And up on the top, you'll usually find arrowheads all the time. Um, so I was walking along and finding some here and there. And then I was with a buddy of mine and I found this object on the ground that had like these lines on it. And I pick it up and my jaw sort of dropped because it was this black stone with a face on it. It was a perfect face. It wasn't like, oh, this could be a face. No, it was a face. Like this person carved a perfect face
Not
on
like
this
something you
stone.
would see in like a bag of potato chips. Like it looks like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't
Yeah.
think
Like
so.
the gorilla Cheeto or something. No, this is like, this is the real deal. They call them effigies. And it was a Native American just made it out of stone. And it just was laying in the ground and the plow truck just brought it up. It's a museum piece. It's the best thing I ever found. It's on my channel, but I have it behind glass now, which is behind another piece of glass. But it's beautiful, and basically it was the front end of a peace pipe from years and years and years ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It could be older than that. I actually don't have it dated, but it very well could be. It could be a few thousand years old because a lot of the artifacts that I found there are from that time period, and it's it's pretty impressive when you find something like that because you're talking, someone spent some time on that, and you just wonder who made it, who it was given to, because a piece like that, Native Americans would make pipes all the time, and they would just do it real quick out of a stone, or if they wanted to make like a bird, it would be this like really easy bird. They would just put a couple eyes on it or something. It just looks like a bird. This was obviously a piece that was made special for someone, and I just wish I knew. I'll never know who it was for or what it was used for, but it's a peace pipe. It was the bowl portion of it. So the stem was broken off where you put your mouth on, but it's perfect. I mean, you get a chance to look on my channel and take a look at it. It's pretty neat looking.
Would you say that's one of your most memorable things that you found, or have you found something out of all your findings that really sticks into your head, whether it was just the experience, like we are talking about how that kind of makes a memory as well, or just the overall find?
Um, that was one of the top two greatest finds I've ever had. I think the other find was in October of last year. I proposed to my now fiance in Annapolis, Maryland, and we were close to Calvert Cliffs, the place I just told you about, where you can search for um, Miocene era um, shark's teeth and things like that. And we were on our way home, and I had just happened to ask her. I just said, "Hey, any chance you want to just take a quick walk on the beach? Maybe we'll find something. Maybe you won't." And the prize at Calvert Cliffs is megalodon teeth, which is I'm sure you've heard of megalodon from the movies and stuff like that. It really was a real shark. It was a 70-foot, up to 70-foot shark that uh, basically resembled a great white shark, even though they just recently
It was a
discovered
dinosaur. It was a dinosaur.
it was, yeah, it was enormous. And these sharks are so big, they say that if humans were swimming back then with them, if the shark was taking in water through its mouth, you could get sucked between two of its teeth, the little like just going right through it. Like that's how big they were. You would just fit through the gap of their teeth, which is just horrifying of a thought. So we went to the beach and we started walking around, just thinking we would maybe find a cool shell or something, and then just go home. And just out of nowhere, this wave just brought in a megalodon tooth, and it's very, very like it's not rare to find, but it's so rare to find a whole one. and this one was pristine. I did catch that on video, which is also up on my channel. But it was just, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I mean, you'll hear me like a jackass, like I can't even comprehend what's happening when I'm reaching down to pick it up.
You
But
were
it
probably
was
like, could I believe this shit?
yeah, it's
Look,
basically
I
yeah,
found a tooth of a dinosaur.
yeah, basically. It was like it was a baby megalodon actually. It was still 2.5 inches big. So most of the teeth um, that you find from a megalodon are they can be up to 7.5 inches. That's like I think the biggest they've ever found, 7.5 inches big. I just had a little juvenile, and it was like jaw dropping to find it. So that was
News.
probably my second favorite.
It's more than I've ever found. I mean, if I'm finding like a saw in the ocean or something, I
Hey,
also got my leg cut up by a sprinkler when I was in the ocean. A wave came and something grabbed, like it felt like something metal hit my leg, and I reached down like an idiot. I never pick stuff up in the ocean. If I touch anything, I'm like Jesus on water. I'm running off of that sucker. But this thing hit my leg, and I immediately like reach down, grab it, pick it up, and pull it out. It was a metal sprinkler. Like someone was like, I'm gonna like the ones you throw out on your lawn is like when
yeah,
you're a kid, you used to run through them. Those things. I'm like, where and how did this get here?
yeah. I mean, hey, if you might need might need to cut some wood one day, and you might need to put a sprinkler out.
I predated that sprinkler back to 1978. Sir Mr. Benjamin Johnson that lived across the street with his kids, he decided to throw that sprinkler thing away, and I hold that in a plaque to my room till this day.
Hey, it's not a bad find. I found worse.
What's one thing that you kind of hope to come across like one day if you ever could? Like if you had like a chance and there was something that you like could pick, like bend down and pick something up and it was this thing, what would it be?
Um, That's hard to say. I mean, because I like to do so many different forms of things. I mean, a larger megalodon tooth in that 7 inch or bigger range would be amazing. But I'm also looking for Spanish reals. They basically look like they dropped out of a treasure chest on a pirate ship.
A lot
So
of
that
that
would
was
be
in
something.
Florida base. A lot of gold in Florida. They find them on the
Yeah,
beaches there because that's what a lot of the Spanish travelers used to, a lot of
exactly.
sunken ships out there.
Exactly. And there's a ton on the along the Chesapeake Bay and things like that as well, right around or off where you live, and there's all sorts of things. I mean, it's amazing. That's what's cool about it is, you I think in the beginning you had mentioned like, I know people usually don't really find anything with a metal detector, but if you actually do some research and you find spots where shipwrecks have occurred and you go after a storm, there's a chance that you'll find stuff. You have a spot by you called Coin Beach, and there was some basically treasure that fell off of a ship back then. That was a shipwreck and washes up the shore after every storm. You can go out and find them. I've had friends go out and they come back with a few, and it might not be worth a ton of money, but you're picking that up for the first time after it fell off of that ship is pretty neat.
I think a lot of the times, like it's on the basis of the weather as well. It feels like you probably find a little bit more things, like if the tide's in or if the tide is like extremely high or something where it might wash something up on the beach. You
That
know,
is the idea. Yeah.
it seems like after a huge storm, like a hurricane or something, is the best time to go because like it's where everything gets like mixed around. Like if you look at
Yeah.
the ocean waves and the ocean waves as they're spinning and hitting into the sand, it's like a washing machine. It's bringing that sand up and throwing it around and like if you took your hand, put it in a thing of wet sand and just started moving around like a blender. That's literally what it's doing. It's blending up everything. So it's weird to think like what stuff could be unearthed from that.
Anything can. I mean, think of how long the waters have been there for. So as long as there's been people walking along that beach or animals walking along that beach, you'll find whatever there that is that they dropped, and it's
I think
definitely
I think 2 summers ago, there's this person I worked with. His name is Sergey, and he's a Romanian student, and he bought this brand new, like, it was when the iPhone came out, but it was underwater, like that edition of it where you could
Yeah.
put it underwater, or whatever phone that was at the time, where it was like one of the first underwater phones. You could take videos and stuff. And he lost it like the next day. He comes into work, oh dude, I lost my phone. He's all upset and crying and stuff. Somebody found his phone at the beach. He didn't
Yeah.
have his phone on a lock, and there was no thumbprint scanner. So they actually called somebody or did something and then found out where he worked. Like, he had the address for his work saved, like, in his GPS or his maps or something, and he got
Yeah.
his phone back.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
was like,
That's
that's a one in a million type thing. Like, you're so lucky that so many things fell into place. That person was a good person that brought your phone back, and also
yeah.
that they were able to find it in the ocean.
Yeah. That's insane. I mean, I've heard those stories. I mean, I have friends that have returned wedding bands. They returned dog tags from a vet that just dropped them on the beach, and just different things. I mean, I've I've actually never had a chance to do that yet. I've never found something that I was able to track to someone else. But I would definitely do that if I did find something.
The only thing I can ever think of that I really, really found, I guess, and you wouldn't even say you say it would be found, besides like a saw or maybe a sprinkler or something, and Oakley sunglasses. I had a really nice pair of sunglasses on. I don't spend $100 or something for sunglasses, but I got like a nice like $60 pair that was a gift from my boss. For
Yeah.
such good work for the summer. And I was going on this jet ski like 70 miles an hour, and it was a kind of bumpy waves, and I hit in just the right way where the wave shot up and hit me right in the face. And it knocked my sunglasses clear off my head. Like, my head went to the left and my sunglasses flew off, which is now why I wear the little thing that goes behind the sunglasses that clip to your head, that little, the geek
The
band.
croquis.
Yeah, the croquis. And I turned to the left and my sunglasses just flew right off my face. I immediately let go of the jet ski and just hop in after them. I mean, finger just grabbing the tip of the sunglasses, something out of a movie.
Oh, really?
I hit the water going 70 miles an hour. I skidded, but I had them on my fingertips, like just was able to catch it. And I'm in
Right.
the bay, so I mean, it probably wouldn't have been that hard to find them. It's all waist deep out there, except in certain areas. But I caught those. I was like, yeah. And they're like, what happened? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I got my sunglasses. That's all I care about. He's like, you just jumped off a jet ski at going like 70 miles an hour. Are you sure you're all right? I'm like, dude, I've been through worse on my jet ski before. I mean, one time I'm back in the mornings when I first started, like right, I guess when we're opening up, we would open up the jet skis in the morning. So what we would do is, like, I'd get on my Ultra 300 and I'd ride from Ocean City all the way to Ocean Pine. So that clear full cross the bay, like where the bridges
Okay.
are and everything.
Yeah.
I'd ride from one end to the other end, completely flat, beautiful weather, right in the morning. I don't even really need to get a wetsuit on. I don't need to have board shorts on. I'm just literally in my shirt and shorts, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ride. And
Yeah.
I remember I was coming back into the channel, and when you go into a channel, it's what they call a no wake zone.
Yep.
So when you're going into that no wake zone, it's no gas. It's literally just idle speed, which is like around 5 miles an hour.
All
A
right.
fucking seagull is right at the beginning of the channel. So I'm coming down from going like 75, 80 miles an hour on perfect flat water on this Ultra 300 supercharge. You're hearing the whining of the supercharge. And this fucking seagull's out there in the distance. I'm like 50 feet out. I'm like, oh, he's going to get up and fly away. There's no way he's going to just sit there.
You run them over.
At the last second, he gets up. I mean, my jet ski's at this point, I'm not even holding the throttle. It's just slowing down with inertia at this point. There's no brakes on it really on a jet ski, except if you get the new,
Right.
but you're still moving because you're in water. He gets up at the last minute, flies up in the air, and just gets to my chest level. Boom, right in my chest.
Oh no.
Dude, I look like someone shot me with a shotgun.
Oh my god.
My whole left part of my arm just popped out like someone, like, when you're walking down the hallway and you bump into somebody with your shoulder and their shoulder kind
Yeah.
of flings back. That's what that seagull did to me. And I turn around like,
Oh
holy
really?
shit, that just happened. I turn around and I look, and the seagull's neck is just snapped and just
Oh
floating in the
man.
water. I'm like, I feel so bad, but I can't believe nobody's going to believe me. And then this one kid was sitting on the dock like, you just killed a seagull. I was like, you saw that shit?
That's crazy. Yeah, they're lazy. They eat so damn much, and then they just float around like a lazy piece of shit. Then they never get up when you're like, I had a few boats in the past, and the same thing was happening. I mean, it's a shame. It's like you need to move because there's a giant boat coming towards you, and most of the time they do. And then you always get those few that probably just like ate everything imaginable, and then they just don't move, and then it's just night night.
There was a thing that happened a couple of years ago. Apparently, if you give a seagull Tums or whatever
Yeah.
that like Alka-Seltzer type tablet is that you eat to help with digestive, it
Yep.
makes their stomach explode.
It does actually. That I'm pretty sure that's true. Yeah. That
There was a bunch of cops that were literally like, we're having a bunch of cases of people throwing Tums out onto these seagulls and like they're finding dead seagulls everywhere. I'm like, if a seagull ever shits on my car again, I'm buying a
Yep.
pack of Tums.
Yeah. I think it was Alka Seltzer.
Yeah.
Um, Alka Seltzer. But yeah, that's it's not probably a fun way to go, I would imagine.
Now, do you have any hopes? Like, have you ever tried going into geology with just this fascination for treasure hunting? Like, you could probably uncover a lot of stuff if you had the chance to explore some pretty fancy places.
It would be cool, but I try to be realistic with what's a hobby and what's a career. And I'm not saying you can't make a career out of that, but I don't think I would want to make a career out of the hobby, if that makes sense. I don't want it to lose that fun where I could just go do it whenever I want, and I can, like I said, I'd like to do a lot of these things by myself. It's almost like a form of mindfulness for me. And I might be by the water. I get to hear the water. I don't want to be like with people doing it, and I don't want it to be my career. And I never got into that whole area of it, like making it a career path.
Well, it's a
So
form
it's
of
just a hobby.
relaxation for you. That's kind of like how this podcast was. My cousin at one point in my when I was doing like maybe I was like on my 30th episode, he was
Yeah.
like, "Dude, we should get you a shop on the boardwalk and have it so like people can come on and talk to you for an hour." And I was like, "I never want to pay somebody for a conversation. I rather
Right. Yeah.
just, I feel like that would lose it because once you start turning your hobby into a job, it'll be fun for a while, but eventually you just will lose the taste for it. I mean, the
Right.
originality to it was that you did it, you went and did it yourself, not feeling like you were required to do it.
Right. Right. And that's what's cool about what you're doing. It really is just a conversation, and it's different than other interviews and things like that people would go on. It's just better. It's more relaxed, and you can reach out to anybody who you think could be interesting as a human
I
to
think
uh
everybody's
to
got
talk.
their own little story.
Everyone does that, and that's why you can have an unlimited uh, guest appearances. That you can have as many people as you want
I get people off Reddit too. That's a scary one.
off Reddit.
Oh, dude, I put a message out on Reddit and got like 30 people on here. I had one dude on here named Unicorn Fart 33. And I was like, what's your real name? Then he tells me, and we just literally, he's like, I'm 16, I'm still in school, and he's just going off about like video games and stuff. I'm like, it doesn't take much, but
Right.
the real kind of communication thing to it is the fact that crafting out an hour or so just to have a conversation is really the most challenging part to it. But we all have the ability to. I'm just trying to give people a not a voice or anything, but show people that hey, all conversation is a lost art. Let's bring it back. Let's take off
Right.
voice texting because we're too lazy to either you're gonna write
Right.
gotta go, but now everyone just voice text because GTG is too hard. I'm like, okay, we lost something here. Let's go back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Brett. I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content as well. Cause I mean, these treasure findings, dude, like you hear about stuff like the Spanish treasures and all these ships that go down near Florida and stuff, and people pulling out like $17 million or something of gold out of a treasure. I mean, like that stuff's ridiculous. Like I said, I haven't really found shit.
Well, you did. You found a saw, and you found, you can
Okay.
easily with your
Those are
finds. You
more
can.
like memorials to me, not really anything expensive unless someone wants to buy a used saw.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You might want to water your lawn with a sprinkler and cut some wood with your new sunglasses that you found.
I could build a shed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. How did you even find me?
I think you hashtag something like geology.
Oh yeah,
I
probably.
just try and look up random hashtags like bike messenger, food delivery, or something like. I really want to talk to a pizza driver, but nobody hashtags pizza driver. I don't know why. They hashtag Uber Eats, but I don't like Uber Eats because I think that gives you too much freedom as a person. You should only
Yeah,
be refined to one menu.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I think you're going to run into that pizza driver soon, and I will be listening, and I'll definitely followed you as well.
I hope he works for Domino's though, because I want to know how they make that crust so
Oh my
damn good.
god, dude,
It's oregano. I know it is. I know it is.
yeah, I've been trying to figure it out too. I mean, so Lisa, my fiance, that's all we do is when there's nothing else to do at the end of the night on a weekend, we're just gonna drink some beer and order the 555 deal
Dude, I'm
every
telling
time.
you, I'm a fitness freak, so I eat pretty clean. And when I found out if you put oregano on your salad, it makes it taste exactly like Domino's pizza. I was like,
Really?
this is a game changer. And then I found out, actually talking to a pizza delivery person, that besides getting like the late night calls of just stoners and drunk people, and then end up forgetting what they order, where you have to like log back into stuff and figure out what's going on there. Like, oh, you
Right.
ordered this last time. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay, cool. Um, it turns out it's oregano that's in their crust. They bake it in there somehow.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm actually making a pizza tonight, so honest to God, I'm gonna do that.
You better send me a picture of you dumping that oregano on there. I'm telling
I
you.
will, man. You just game changed a lot of things for me, if that's the truth.
Well, all right. Look, now give us your content, like where your links are and everything. I want to make sure people can find your stuff so I can link it in the description as well.
Honestly, I don't even. It's my name is East Coast Treasure Hunting. I have no idea how to even share any links. It's
Is
just
it? It's
out
on
there for.
YouTube. It's on
Oh yeah,
Instagram.
it's all East Coast treasure hunting. I guess if you just type that in, you'll be able to find it. But I'm the worst when it comes to promoting. It's horrible because I'm in marketing. It's really just for people to stumble upon. I'm not trying to get it out there, although it seems to be making people happy. So, but yeah, East Coast treasure hunting. If you want to look it up. And there's some of the things I talked about today. You'll be able to see me finding them. I usually pull my phone out as soon as I find something and try to get it on video if I don't drop it in the water or something before that.
He's like Nicolas Cage, but he's not so strict on his movies. It seems like Cage plays the same character over and over and over again.
Pretty much.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
bad with promotion myself. I come off kind of like a jerk. I always tell people like, can you send me a link? I'm like, it's called Out of the Blank. If ever I'm on a guest spot, they're like, all right, we want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content. I'm like, it's called Out of the Blank. Just look it up. I'm like, so many stuff gets handed to us. Let's just do this little bit and go and find it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you post it, I'll send you whatever links you would need to make it easier for people. I know how to find those, so I'll definitely provide that to you.
I'll make sure too that like I'll get everything down too in case you forget one or something. I always make sure that people can find every guest content and stuff because it's truly amazing. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from seeing what you do too because I think a lot of these hobbies and stuff that people have, people need to go back to because it seems like we're being a little bit too addicted to the phones in a way.
Exactly. What you just said is you just nailed it. It's really is. People don't look at treasure hunting as something fun. In fact, um, they might think of it as the complete opposite. Like they don't want to be seen with a metal detector. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you look like a dickhead walking around with a metal detector.
Yeah,
But
and most of the people that use a metal detector are old guys with their shirts off that shouldn't
yeah,
have their shirts off.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they got to just they got their shirts off. They shouldn't have their shirts off. But the younger generation really is starting to pick up on this, and that's why I wanted to sort of share all my things because I've seen people that were depressed come out of depression because every single day they can go do one of these few 3 4 things that I do, and no one's telling them what to do, where to go. You just go to these you know spots that you want to go to, and you look around, and maybe you get lucky. And I usually do so.
It's never a bad time when you're looking for treasure. I think it's also kind of the mystery and the wonderment of, am I going to find something? Am I going to find something?
Exactly. exactly.
You never know where it can turn to. Well, thank you so much for Brett for being on this episode of Out of the Blank
Yeah, Rob,
podcast.
appreciate it.
And stay tuned for our next episode.